Hi, my name's Bo Chamberlain. I am an aortic survivor since 2012. But before I get into that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up in Eastlake, Ohio, up until the age of 19 when my parents moved to Kentucky. I said I wasn't moving to Kentucky. And then finally, I did move to Kentucky when I was about 20. And my father was a union pipe fitter. And that was my dream always to be a union pipe fitter. They would ask you, what do you want to be in school? I would write on the paper, I want to be a union pipe fitter. So long story short, I became a union pipe fitter. And I worked at all the powerhouses around Cincinnati and up and down the Ohio River. I even worked at the Bengal Stadium and the Red Stadium. They were building it. So I'll fast forward to 2012. I was working at a powerhouse on the river. But if I go back to 2008, when I was working at the powerhouses, my heart was beating real fast. I went through these rapid where my heart wanted to jump out of my body. So I went to the doctor and they told me I needed an ablation. So I went in and got operated on and they said they cut off and burned 16 arteries or electrical valves or whatever that goes into your heart because I had too many in my heart that I was born with. So they fixed that. So that was in 2008. 2012, I was working at a powerhouse, Zimmer Powerhouse in New Richmond, Ohio. And at that time, I was helping friends that I went to high school with plan a 42nd or 40th reunion. I look forward to this reunion for a year. Well, a week before the reunion, I got laid off, which is normal for being a pipe fitter. You just go from job to job. And next weekend was the reunion. Uh, I come from a very hyper family. They're all very high strung people. And I was working at the powerhouse and I was getting these headaches. These headaches were so bad, I just I couldn't function. Couldn't even hardly walk or see or anything. I was getting these really bad headaches at work. So I started taking anything I could to get rid of these headaches. Tylenol, this, that. Nothing was working. So got laid off, left on the following Friday morning with me and my brother, Art, older brother, and we went to Cleveland. And got to Cleveland, and my head was pounding. It was hurting so bad. Just wanted to cry. But I went on because I was determined to have a good time and a good weekend back home. I didn't know that a couple hours my life was going to change. It did. It changed really bad. I picked up my cousin and we went to a pre Friday night thing before the actual reunion on Saturday night. We walked in there and we stayed for a little while. And then as we left, I got into my truck. He got into the other side. I said, "Oh my gosh." I guess I probably said more than "oh my gosh." And he said, "Oh, you can't be having a heart attack on my watch." I said, "I don't know what I'm having." I said, "But it feels like someone's got a knife that's just pulling me across my shoulder blades and down my back." So they called the paramedics. Paramedics came, and at that time I was a smoker. So what's the first thing a smoker's going to do? He's going to light a cigarette. So I lit a cigarette, and paramedics came and they asked me, throw the cigarette out. And I did. I threw it out. They went over all my vitals and everything, and they said everything looks good. Blood pressure isn't high, nothing. So they said, you want to go to the hospital? And I said, no, I don't. But I just waved them off because I was up there for the weekend. I wanted to have a good weekend, seeing friends and family. But that ain't how it turned out. So after I waved off the ambulance, I went about my business and going and seeing people, but it seemed like every half an hour it just got worse and it got worse. By this time it was 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I could not take the pain no more. So I went back to the motel room and just kind of laid around. Finally, around 10 o'clock, I called my wife and I was in tears. Told her what was happening. She said, and this is kind of funny. She said, well, go lay in the bathtub. Get in the bathtub, hot water, everything fixes it, It helps everything. It didn't help. So I woke up my brother that was in the room sleeping, and I told him, I said, Art, you got to take me. I got to go to the hospital. The hospital was only like right down the hill, 2 miles. So we got in the hospital. We got in my truck, and he drove us down, and I was in really bad pain. I really wasn't thinking right because I told my brother, I said, stop at the gas station. I want to get a pack of cigarettes. So I got a pack of cigarettes, and what did I do? I lit a cigarette. It was only 2 blocks from the hospital where I got the cigarettes. And matter of fact, I got that same pack of cigarettes up in the china cabinet of a remembrance. So I walked into the hospital, same hospital that my mom passed away in 1996. Same hospital my brother and sister were born. Same hospital that when I was a kid and I got stitches in my knee, my mom took me to that hospital. All this is going through my mind. I'm walking into the hospital. And the woman slides the glass at the desk and she says, may I help you? And I said, yes. I said, I don't know what's wrong, but if I'm having a heart attack or something's wrong, and I didn't even get something's wrong, I collapsed. Fell onto into a chair that was next to the window. So they took me back and I was in so much pain, they couldn't even put me on the table to do an MRI. So they gave me whatever they gave me, morphine. I really don't know what they gave me. And I got on the table. By that time, I didn't have no pain. Did the x-rays, MRI, and they wheeled me down the corridor. Usually when you go into a doctor's office, you get to the inside the room, you're waiting on them for 10, 15 minutes. Not this time. They wheeled me in the room and that doctor was right there. He said, Mr. Chamberlain? I said, yeah. And by this time I was in no pain at all. I couldn't feel nothing. He said, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I can't really remember his name, but he said, Doctor. He said, I'm going to be very straightforward with you and I'm not going to pull no punches. Do you know who John Ritter is? I said, yeah, of course, the actor. He says, that's right. He says, you have the same thing that killed John Ritter. He said, and I've got air care coming in 13 and a half minutes from the Cleveland Clinic. They'll be here 13 and a half minutes. If I don't get you there by morning, you will be dead. Just kind of disbelief. Brother, he's standing at the end of the bed where I'm at. He's just in disbelief. So back then it was the slide, the new phones that came out. like what we got now, and you slide them. Well, my brother couldn't figure out how to slide the phone, so I got the phone from him and I called my wife. Of course, my wife, she was like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the hospital." And that's all I said. And I handed the phone to the nurse. And the nurse got on the phone, talked to my wife, and she said, "It's bad." She said, "You need to get your family here." Before I knew it, they were wheeling me out to the helicopter port outside the hospital. They got me into the helicopter. As I started going up and we were going over the city, I looked up at the nurse. I said, "Please don't let me die." And she kind of looked down at me and she said, "Honey, we'll do everything we can." And she kind of patted me on this shoulder. And I kind of looked to the right and I could see all the lights over the city of Cleveland. Then I seen one big light was coming off the top of the roof of this hospital. And as they were dropping me down, I looked again to my right, and there's a trauma team, 15, 20 people, sort of just like you see in the movies. And they got me off the helicopter. They were chanting everything, this, that, and all that. And I didn't know what they were talking about. Because at that time, I wasn't in no pain. They just gave me all that medicine at the local hospital. So as I went down, they pushed me down the corridor and they put me in the room. Really didn't know what was going on. I don't even think my mind was right. And so then I actually, that part of it's kind of after that, it's kind of a blank. Then I just remember that they wanted to keep me stable. This is my dog Coco. He kind of runs the house. They kind of started giving me a bunch of medicine. The next day, well, heck, my family wasn't even there. They were all in Kentucky. So I was there basically by myself with my brother, my older brother, Art, which is now deceased, passed away a year ago in August. He passed away of complications from Agent Orange being in Vietnam. He's gone, and I'm still here. But that's another story. So they had me on the bed, and I was laying there, and next morning I got up, and I was sitting at the edge of the bed, and the nurse came in. She was pretty mad when she seen me sitting up on the bed. She said, "Mr. Chamberlain, you don't know how bad this is. You lay flat on your back and don't get up." She says, "If I have to put bells and whistles on you to do it, I will." She was really stern. I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I laid back on bed, and I didn't get up out of that bed for 8 or 9 days. Then by the next morning, my family was there. Wife, all my kids. And by that point, I didn't even know what was going on. No one had told me anything. And then I guess they were waiting for my wife and family to come in. The doctor came in, told me and my wife that I had an aortic dissection. He said that he explained it to me that I bled inward. He said John Ritter bled outward, and so they said it was actually too risky to operate. They said if I probably wouldn't have pulled through the operation if they would have done that, had the operating. So they did was they kept me all medicined up and given me propofol, keep me settled until I didn't want to move around. I laid in that bed for seemed like 2 months, but it was 9 or 10 days, and it just everything. When they had me on that propofol, it was like I was in a dream. I would just be looking around and I could see I was seeing everybody, but it was like in a dream state. But they told me and my wife that if they would have operated, I might not have made it. So they let it scar up like a scab. You do a scab on your hand. They let it just form a scab. And along with that came a lot of medicine. Before this happened, I never took any medicine before in my life. Now I take 6 different medicines twice a day. So I stayed there for 9 days. And I had no insurance at that time. I just come off the powerhouse. My insurance hadn't kicked in yet. But when my union hall found out, my wife had called them, they stepped up to the plate. And thank God they took care of everything. They paid for it all. So I was very lucky in that respect. So my wife had to go back to Kentucky to take care of the house and everything. So I told her, just go, I'll be fine. And I had plenty of family around me, but I missed my wife. She missed me. But I stuck it out. Doctor came in a couple, 3 days later, told me, said, Mr. Chamberlain, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a union pipe fitter. He said, you're not no more. And that was really hard to swallow. I was 54 at the time. 63 now. What, I'm a 12-year survivor. And it totally changed my life. Totally. I finally got out of the hospital 10 days later, came home. I was just like a zombie. The pain was so excruciating. Couldn't lay down and sleep. I kind of had to sleep. I kind of slept in bed at night. Then during the day, I just sat in a chair, blanket. I sat there every single day for 6 months, easy, before I felt like I was somebody. And I don't have a very good pain tolerance. and I was eating the pain pills like chiclets because the pain was excruciating. Then after about 6 months of trying to figure out my body was ever going to be close to what it was. I mean, because I was at the powerhouses and I could climb 50, 60, 100 foot in the air, walk around, hang pipe with me and my partner. Now, at that time, I couldn't even walk 3 feet. It was hard for me. It's actually hard for me to even do this. I've been debating for over a year whether or how to tell my story. And if it wouldn't have been for my wife, and my family, and the biggest thing was my grandkids. I have 11, but I slowly started coming around, you know, after that 6 months. And I went to the doctor, the vascular doctor here in Kentucky, and they had took more x-rays and stuff of me. And they found out that the way the aorta cracked or something, I'm not a doctor, it cut off 70% of blood flow into my left leg. That was a hard thing to swallow too. And so I only got 30% of blood flow into my left leg. So I used to be able to walk around, climb. I can't do nothing. I can't even go into the grocery store and hit the front door from the parking lot without limping, like I'm Fester on Gunsmoke. I'll just kind of start hobbling. Sometimes my left leg goes completely numb, and I got to just stop wherever I'm at and just sit. Just find a place to sit down, because to this day, still does that. So I guess I'm to the point where it was after 6 months, I started moving around just a little bit. I just learned some things I can still do and some things I can't. Things I can do is be with my family and be appreciative, because it was hard. I never had no problems with health, other than in 2008 when it started with the palpitations. I was always healthy. When I was bulletproof, there was nothing that could touch me. Now, 63, I have all this that has happened to me, far from being bulletproof. And there's times during the day I wish I could go back, kind of maybe change something to where it didn't happen to me. But I guess God's got a plan for everyone, and it's just been a long road. Here's my Coco. All my kids are grown now, gone, so we got little Coco. I don't. I take a lot of medicine. Like I said before, I take a lot of medicine for my aorta. it's just been a long road. That's basically my story. I hope that some people that are watching this can kind of relate to it a little bit. Like I said, my brother that took me to the hospital, he has done passed away. That's really hard to swallow. Because he was my hero. Now he's gone. Here. Sometimes I feel I wish he was here. But I just live every day best I can. I have my good days and I have my bad days. I've developed arthritis in my back. I don't know if it's from the aortic dissection. 70% of less blood flow in my left leg. There's everybody will say to me, they'll say, "Oh, you look good. You look good." And I say, "Well, I'm sort of like a Cadillac, old Cadillac. Looks good on the outside, but the interior is completely shot." But I guess that's all I really have to say as far as my testimony, my story. I think Aortic Hope is a fantastic organization. Brings a lot of awareness that never was here before. And yes, that's all I really have to say. And I'll just say goodbye. Hey, Coke. Bye from Northern Kentucky. And I just got one last thing to say. Go Cleveland Browns.